Hello everyone, in this video we are going to talk about the steps that are involved in skeletal muscle contraction. So you can see it in this concept map. It includes all the steps that involve in skeletal muscle contraction. Now let's look at the first thing over here. Now for a skeletal muscle to contract, first thing we have to stimulate a motor nerve. So you can see this right here, we have motor nerve stimulation, and which will lead to sodium entering the motor nerve. Then that will lead to motor nerve action potential at that particular part of the nerve. Now, then what happens next is that sodium ion will then enter the next part of the nerve to trigger the next part of the nerve to have action potential. Then you have again ion will enter the next part of the nerve. Then you again get the motor nerve action potential at the other part of the nerve. So this process of sodium entering the motor nerve and triggering motor action potential will spread throughout the nerve. Now, then as the action potential get to the nerve terminal, the calcium will enter the nerve terminal to trigger the nerve terminal to release something called acetylcholine. Now, acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter. And what is a neurotransmitter? Neurotransmitter is a substance that released by nerve to transmit their signal to other cell or other nerve. So in this case, the neurotransmitter in this case is called acetylcholine. Now, then what happens next is that the acetylcholine will move toward the muscle cell. Now, to stimulate the muscle cell, the skeletal muscle cell. Then what happens is that will cause the sodium channel on the muscle cell to open. Then you have a lot of sodium rush into, like a lot of sodium enter the muscle cell. Then that will lead to the muscle cell to have action potential. Then what happens next is that the action potential will then, from the action potential from the muscle cell will then spread to a structure called sarcoplasmic reticulum. Then this sarcoplasmic reticulum will release calcium ion and into the muscle cell, and that calcium ion will bind to a protein called troponin. Now, when the calcium ion binds to the protein troponin, it will cause the troponin to move a protein called tryptomyosin away from actin. Actin is another protein inside the muscle. Now, after this step, we will have ATP involved. Now, ATP will be used so that it will allow myosin, another muscle protein, to bind to actin. Then we'll have this thing called myosin-actin interaction in order for skeletal muscle contraction to occur. Then, now that's the step over here. We just list out all the steps of skeletal muscle contraction. Now let's talk about the location of what each step happened. Okay, so you can see right here, the first step, the second step, and the third step. You can see that we have a bracket here. So it's telling you that first step, second step, and the third step happen in the motor nerve. Then you can also see that the second step and the third step also happen in the neuromuscular junction as well. So you can see the bracket right here, right? And in addition to that, you have the fourth step over here also happen in the neuromuscular junction. So what is a neuromuscular junction? Neuromuscular junction is a junction that's between a nerve and a muscle. So if you can see it over here, if you come back and look at the step over here, you can see we have this nerve over here and we have the muscle over here. And you can see this bracket cover the nerve and the muscle. So that's why this location here is called neuromuscular junction, because it involves the nerve and the muscle, and there's a junction between the nerve and the muscle. Now, then let's talk about from this point on, like from this step toward the end over here, are all these are the steps that actually happen in a muscle cell, happen in the muscle, right? Or when you call muscle cell, it's the same as saying muscle fibers. So muscle cell and muscle fiber are interchangeable, so they mean the same things. Okay, and here we just have talked about all the steps of a skeletal muscle contraction, and also we also talk about the location where each step happens.